you're running for Congress. Obviously, this is all going back, with this redistricting effort that Newsom has been pushing. Before we kind of get to that, kind of talk about first your desire and the reasons that you're running for this seat.
Yeah, I grew up here in San Diego and I've been in public service my whole life. I've now been elected to serve my hometown. And one of the things I've noticed growing up here is that the cost of living and the cost of living in Southern California in general has grown astronomically. And I've been fighting to lower costs for people. I started the very first teacher assistance down payment fund for teachers to buy homes, and I lowered the price of food for seniors who couldn't use apps to get the digital only discounts. And meanwhile, I'm seeing people like Darrell Issa and Donald Trump work as hard as they can to raise costs for our residents. Their tariff war is crushing our small businesses. They're crippling American manufacturing here in San Diego County in the biotech industry by suspending all of the research grants for cancer and diseases, and generally making it harder for us to obtain health care, all to give tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans. And so I'm running for Congress to do more of what I've done on city council, and it's to deliver results for the people here who are struggling just to get by.
So talk a little bit about that transition in your mind, what it would be like to go from, city council to Congress. Obviously, you're one of 9 on city council, you're one of 435 in Congress, but the responsibilities are different, all those things are different. Why do you think your experience sets you up well to take on a new role like this?
Well, honestly, our democracy is at stake right now. We need to stand up to Donald Trump and Darrell Issa and fight back. We need to put a check on the Trump administration. And by flipping the House of Representatives, we'll have an opportunity to have a check and balance again in our government. One of the things I'm deeply worried about are the attacks on women's rights. We've lost our right to reproductive freedom in this country. I want to stop the attacks on the LGBTQ community. I am an LGBTQ woman, and I don't know if I'll be allowed to get married to the woman I love in the future. Very worried about what's happening to our country. And so serving in Congress will help me work on these national issues that I care so deeply about. One of the things I've done in my career is work in Congress. I spent time working for Congressman Bobby Scott, and he's the chair of the Education and Labor Committee. One of the key issues we fought for was unrigging the economy against working people, closing the loopholes that don't allow people to vote for and form a union and have a voice in their job. We wrote what is now the PRO Act together, the Protect the Right to Organize. And I never thought I'd be, running for Congress tomorrow, but I always thought in the back of my head, if I ever do run for Congress, it's to get workers' rights across the finish line and make the economy an even playing field again. And so that's one reason I'm very excited to join my old boss and mentor, Congressman Scott, in Congress.
You talk about, Issa and Trump, and it's obviously these are very like partisan political issues that you're bringing up. In Congress, back in the good old days, some would say, there was more compromise, there was more working together across the aisle, and it seems like we've kind of gotten away from that. What would your effort be to, try to work with Republicans if you were to get in, try to come up with solutions together? Do you feel like you would be a force that might be able to get some common ground on important issues?
During my tenure, here in city council, one of the most controversial to some people things I've worked on is gun violence prevention. I care deeply about stopping shootings in schools like we just saw in Minneapolis last week. And so I brought folks together on all sides of the political aisle, gun restriction advocates and law enforcement, to work to pass California's very first ban on illegal, untraceable ghost guns. These are things that I brought gun owners and gun violence prevention advocates together over to pass this law to keep people safe. I am used to working with people on all sides of an issue to get things done. However, my values as a Democrat do not waver. I will not compromise on women's rights. I will not compromise on our LGBTQ rights. At the same time, I will work to find common ground with people I don't agree with, because we have to get things done for our citizens. And I want to continue delivering results like I have been for the past 5 years here.
So you are currently running for state senate as well. Talk to me about how that process is going to go. Are you going to continue to have your foot kind of in both camps until we kind of see it, what November looks like, and if these ballots pass? Are you running for Congress no matter what, no matter if the maps get denied? Can you kind of just walk me through kind of your path here?
Yeah, we are fully pausing the state Senate campaign and pivoting completely to run for Congress. I mean, I can't wait anymore to fight back against Darrell Issa and Donald Trump and the destruction he's doing to our government and our way of life. And so we're going full in. I do believe the maps are going to pass because we have to. You know, we didn't create this fight. Trump asked Texas to rig the elections against us, and Gavin Newsom and California are standing up to fight back. And by passing Prop 50, it will give young professional women like me an opportunity to run for Congress. And so we're pivoting full well. We're hitting the ground running. And I'm going to do what I did in my last election, which is win this the old fashioned way. You know, I went door to door for my last election, talking to voters on all sides of the political spectrum. I knocked on Republican doors, Democratic doors, independent doors. And that's what I plan to do and win it the old fashioned way here too.
How do you respond to some of the criticisms of the process with these temporary maps? You have people that talk about the independent commission and how important that was a number of years ago when that came through. You hear from maybe more Republican or voters or independents that may think that they're being disenfranchised by the maps being kind of swayed in such a way that puts seats like Issa from kind of a safe red seat to a vulnerable seat. What's your overall perspective on those criticisms?
You know, if Donald Trump and Darrell Issa knew that they could win on their failed policies, they wouldn't be trying to rig this election. They are the ones who started this in Texas. California is responding, and California is doing the most democratic process possible by putting it before the voters. Every voter will be able to have their say in a voting booth. The Texas legislature is imposing it on their residents. It's a very anti-democratic process. But we have to stand up and fight. If we don't, we risk losing more of our rights, women's rights to access healthcare. We risk losing LGBTQ rights in this country. We risk losing our basic protections to healthcare and making sure that our deficit doesn't balloon because he's giving tax cuts to the rich while we're trying to fight to keep the Department of Education open and have things like school lunches. So this is a broader fight for democracy, and I do hope that Prop 50 passes in November.
Okay. I have no further questions. Anything that you want to say I feel like you covered your own personal reasons why you're running and all of that well, but anything else that you feel like you need to get out there before we wrap up?
I'm really hopeful right now. There's not been a lot of reason for hope in the world, and the fact that we're doing something to stand up and fight back, and that a young professional woman like me can run for Congress when so often it's controlled by people who are much, much older than me, and it's so hard to break in. This is giving me hope. So thank you.